Now, getting on to the things, I want to get on now to your Pint and Politics that's going to be happening this Friday, 8 o'clock at the Green Rooster pub in Minden Place. Mm-hmm. Now, I want to say, isn't that like a recipe for disaster, alcohol and politics?
Well, we're meeting upstairs in a pub. Most people, I think, feel a lot more comfortable when they're just associating with their mates and having a few drinks and chatting or whatever. Politics is often perceived as being a stuffy thing for rich white men who are out of touch with the public, who, you know, they might have a public meeting at the town hall where people shake their fists and get angry. But to get people together in a social environment, enjoy a few drinks, listen to some live music and have a chat about what's going on in the world, I think you can actually find out a lot more about what people actually think in that environment. And we've done it before. We had an event a few weeks ago at the same pub upstairs there to talk about education in Jersey and what we were getting wrong. And loads of people turned up, all wanted to have a say. We all had a few drinks, stuck around for a few hours afterwards to chat, and we had some live music. And I think that's important because politics should be accessible to anyone. It shouldn't just be an exclusive club for the elites. It should be accessible for anybody who's got something they want to contribute, and politicians should go out of their way to put themselves in an environment where the public feel comfortable and can air their views to them, because a lot of people don't feel comfortable going to a public meeting and sticking their hand up and speaking like that. So it's our job to go out and meet people, speak to them, find out what they think, and if we can do it upstairs at the pub with a few pints and a bit of live music, well, hopefully people can have a good time and start getting involved in politics that way.
You're saying the last one was about the politics in Jersey. This time is about Donald Trump, the election of Donald Trump. Now, I want to throw a couple of things into the mix here. You know, hopefully, the way I see it is like Trump didn't win as such this election. It was the establishment, and I dare say it's media. The establishment's media lost the election. I argue that the mainstream media across the world, or across the Western world anyway, as we were just discussing a minute ago, is being made redundant, is being made insignificant because of this Donald Trump, who regularly attacks the mainstream media and still gets elected. Isn't there a big positive here to come out of the Donald Trump election, that the establishment are getting a kicking and its media are getting a kicking?
I think so. I'm going to nail my colours to the mast and say I did not support Donald Trump. I think he stands for a lot of things I oppose. I wanted Bernie Sanders to get elected. I thought he was a candidate who also was prepared to stand up to the establishment and had a whole raft of policies that I think would have improved ordinary people's lives. But this has shown that politics cannot continue the way that it's continued for so long, where it's dominated by very wealthy people, dominated by elites who just don't understand how ordinary people feel. And most people have simply lost confidence in these people's ability to address the issues that are making their lives often really difficult. So I think it's important to look at what's happened with Donald Trump in America, look at what's happened with Brexit in the UK. You know, that was another huge anti-establishment victory there, when you see especially how much money the campaign groups spent there. You know, the in campaign spent a lot more than the out campaign did. And from a progressive point of view, I think it's important that, yes, we should be looking to beat the establishment and to have a government which actually represents the interests of ordinary working people. But I think we can't use some of the tactics of division that have been used by some people on the Brexit side and some people on the Donald Trump side. We actually need to be inclusive of all people in our community who are having a tough time at the moment and need people to speak up to them. And we've got to have that conversation, and we can't simply do what the establishment in Britain and America did, where if you disagreed with them, they just dismissed you as a racist. That's not good enough anymore, and it turns people off and they're not up for putting up with it. So we on the progressive side need to work out how we engage with these people and get them on board for a politics which works for everybody and not just the rich elites.
Well, also what I want to throw in there is, I argue, and others argue, that one of the reasons Donald Trump got elected is because he wasn't a politician. Mm-hmm. The way I see it, and the people I talk to in the street, everybody's tired with the same brush. If you're a politician, you're a politician. People are sick and tired of spin and bullshit, for want of a better word, that comes out of politicians' mouths. Not all politicians, we know, for those of us who are political. There are some good guys in the States. Reform Jersey also are in that bracket. But Trump was the only, as far as I know, non-politician standing. He's never held any kind of office. He should never have won this, but he did. Is it because he wasn't a politician? What do you think there?
It's because a huge number of people in America looked at him and listened to what he said, and their instinct was, this guy's on our side. And they looked at Hillary Clinton and their instinct was, she doesn't care about me. Now, a degree of that is just an act. And as I said, I don't support Donald Trump. I'm not happy that he was elected because I think he'll let a lot of these people down. But there are people out there who are genuinely prepared to put their neck on the line and stand up for ordinary working people. And it's not good enough to simply put a suit and tie on and go to these black tie dinners and associate with wealthy and influential people. We need more politicians who are actually from an ordinary working class background, who understand the struggles that ordinary people in the island are facing, and who, once elected, aren't going to abandon those people and are going to stick to what they said they were going to do, keep their election promises, and actually represent those people. And I think when you've seen other movements around the world, people like Podemos in Spain, people like Syriza in Greece, they've had a hell of a lot of things thrown at them that have made it really, really difficult for them. But they've managed to win elections or do very well in elections completely against the odds. And it's because people have had faith in them to actually represent ordinary people, and they've been promoting people, whether it's working class women, whether it's people from ethnic minorities, whether it's young people. And I think young people really are the key here, because it's their island, their future. They're the ones who need to get involved, and they don't read the newspapers. They go on social media. That's how they find out what's going on. And people have got to engage with these people and get them involved in politics, not just leave it to the same people who will have business as usual forever.
Because this is the point I was trying to make. Now, I was watching, bits of BBC News, ITV News, Channel 4, CNN, all the mainstream media. Now, if you were only watching the mainstream media, no one because Donald Trump was getting discredited like hell. You could see that they were supporting the establishment figure Hillary Clinton, and despite all that negative press, all that discrediting, he still got elected. Is there a lesson to be learned here? As you just said, the younger people certainly are looking on the internet. Is there a lesson to be learned here by all mainstream media across the Western world anyway, to start reporting more fairly, honestly, less biasly? Because to me, I think the Donald Trump election was a massive coup and a win for social media.
Yeah, and not only that, but if you look at the airtime that Bernie Sanders got when he was challenging Hillary Clinton to be their party's candidate, he got virtually no publicity at all compared to Hillary Clinton, yet he came so close to beating her. And that was, again, because he utilised social media. He had massive campaign groups with thousands and thousands of people who were going out there to campaign for him. And his whole campaign existed outside of the usual framework. He didn't have the mainstream media involvement. So I think if the media wants to stay relevant, it's got to start reporting on the things that actually matter to people. They are often stuck in this political bubble, just like many politicians are, where they don't realise how ordinary people feel, how ordinary people think. And when we see the decline of many newspapers across the country, that is, I think, largely because people are going to alternative sources for their news now. And if the media wants to stay relevant, it's got to, I think, reinvent itself as a genuine voice for the people, ready to hold the government to account when it gets things wrong, and not just be in the pockets of very wealthy people who aren't actually interested in looking out for ordinary people. If it can do that, it'll still have a role, but it's got to learn that lesson really soon, otherwise it'll disappear and people will purely be focusing on social media. And that is also a bad thing, because social media can be manipulated by bad people to do bad things as well. We've got to have a balance and checks and balances and safeguards So there's a lot of lessons to be learnt there from what's happened over the past year.
So I suppose all this is going to be discussed Friday night at 8 o'clock at the Green Rooster pub on the Donald Trump thing. It sounds like it's going to be an interesting evening.
Yeah, absolutely. And anybody who wants to make a contribution is more than welcome to come. We've got a guest speaker, a guy called Sean Detman, who's involved in a higher education organisation over here, who's American and voted in their elections, got his ear quite close to the ground there, and there'll be live music afterwards. So anybody who wants to come, get involved, have a few drinks and take part, more than welcome.